Welcome back to Rooted in Relationship. I am your host, Raylee Pierce, PCI certified parent coach. Today, we need to talk about something that might sting a little. Your consequences aren't working. I know. You've tried everything, timeouts, taking away the iPad, maybe grounding or loss of privileges, natural consequences and logical consequences and rewards and sticker charts and the whole parenting playbook. And your kid is still doing the thing. So today, I'm going to tell you why. And then I'm going to tell you what actually works. But fair warning, friends, this is going to require you to let go of some things you probably believe pretty deeply about parenting. And that's hard. So take a breath, get your coffee, and let's do this together. Let me tell you about a conversation I had last week with a mom. We'll call her Sarah. So, Sarah's 10-year-old son was lying a lot about homework, about screen time, about whether he'd brushed his teeth. Little lies, but constant lies. And Sarah had, of course, she had tried everything. She took away his Xbox. She made him write an apology letter. She gave consequences for lying and rewards for telling the truth. She talked to him about integrity and honesty and uh, how lying breaks trust. And she really did a thorough job, but nothing worked. He kept lying. And she was telling me this story. And she said to me, I don't understand. The consequences are fair, they make sense. Why isn't he getting it? And here's what I told her. I said, Sarah, he's not lying because the consequences aren't big enough. He's lying because he's afraid. And every time you add this quote unquote like a scary consequence, you're making him more afraid, which just means he lies more. You could hear her brain kind of, I don't know, crack open a little bit here because we've been taught that consequences teach, that if we just find the right consequence, not too harsh, not too soft, just right, our kids will learn. But here's the truth. You can't consequence a child into maturity. And most of the behaviors that are driving you crazy, they're not discipline problems. They're developmental problems. Okay, so let me give you the one thing you need to understand from this entire episode. If you forget everything else, remember this. Growing older is not the same as growing up. Your 9-year-old is 9 years old, but emotionally, developmentally, they might be functioning like a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old. Your 14-year-old has been on the planet for 14 years, but their ability to handle frustration, to think of others, or to see consequences, they might be stuck at 7. And I think this is the kicker that that's not their fault, and it's not yours either. But it is something we need to understand if we want to actually help them. Because when a 9-year-old is having a toddler level meltdown over a broken cracker, they're not being manipulative. They're not, quote unquote, too old for this. They're stuck, developmentally stuck. And you can't punish a child out of stuckness. So let's talk about what stuckness actually looks like, because I bet you're seeing it in your house right now. Most people are. So stuckness in your preschooler looks like, tantrums that seem way too big for the situation, hitting when they're frustrated, can't handle it when things don't go their way, needs you for everything. And what do? Well, we're seeing that parents are doing timeout, they're taking away toys, they're sending kids to their room. But here's what actually is happening. They can't regulate their emotions yet. Their brain literally hasn't developed that capacity. They need you to be their external regulator while their internal one is still under construction. So when you send them away to calm down, you're removing the one thing that could actually help them, you. So let's think about stuckness in your grade schooler might look like, lying about little things. They can't make decisions. They copy everything their friends do. They melt down over homework. And what are parents doing? They are lecturing them. They're taking away privileges. But here's what's actually happening. They haven't emerged as their own person yet. They don't have their own compass. They're either mimicking others or they're terrified of disappointing you. The lying, that's fear. The peer copying, that's lack of self. The meltdowns, that's overwhelm. Consequences don't fix fear, they amplify it. So, what about stuckness in your middle schooler? Well, that might look like living for their phone, friend drama is everything, eye rolls and attitude. Your opinion doesn't matter anymore. And what do? We take away the phone, we restrict friendships, power struggles about being respectful. But here's what actually is happening. They're desperately looking for where they belong. And if they don't belong with you, if you're the enemy, if you're the source of consequences and control, they're going to belong with their peers. Every time you take away their connection to their peers without strengthening their connection to you, you push them further away. And then thinking about a high schooler, stuckness in your high schooler might look like risky choices or shutting down communication with you, saying things like, you just don't understand, pulling away completely. And of course, what do parents do? They threaten, they might bribe them, try to control who they're seeing and what they do. But here's what is actually happening. They don't have an internal compass yet. They're reacting, not reflecting. They haven't integrated enough to hold two thoughts at once. Like, I want to fit in and I know this is dangerous. Yeah, they're not holding both of those things at the same time. And honestly, at this point, you can't control them anyway. You can only hope the relationship is strong enough that they want your input. Part of my work with parents is to help them get back on track with the relationship so we can get you back in the driver's seat to be an influence with your teen, your child, your preschooler. All right, so you see the pattern. We keep treating developmental problems like discipline problems, and it doesn't work. So here's the shift I want you to make. And I'm warning you, this is hard. This is so hard. But it's not impossible because we've been conditioned to think our job is to teach our kids through consequences. But that's not actually how humans develop. Okay. And I think that's a big truth bomb right there. I think this is really big for our understanding because humans, we mature spontaneously, like think about it like water just flows downhill, right? Water flows downhill spontaneously. Or like a seed becomes a tree. If, if the conditions are right. Your job isn't to build maturity through rewards and consequences. Your job is to remove whatever's blocking it. Isn't this so interesting? Like, this is something I had never heard of before. So fascinating. So instead of asking what consequences will make them stop, start asking what's preventing them from growing past this. And there are really only three things that block maturation. The first one is fear. When a child is afraid of your reaction, of disappointing you, of being rejected, they go into defense mode. And defended kids can't grow. They can't be vulnerable. They can't adapt. The lying kid, afraid. The shutdown teen, afraid. The tantruming preschooler, afraid of their own big feelings. What these kids need, they need safety. They need you to say, you can't lose me. Your big feelings don't scare me. I've got you. Not consequences, not lectures, safety. Okay, the second thing that blocks maturation is disconnection. When a child doesn't feel deeply connected to you, when peers matter more than parents, when they're looking everywhere else for belonging, they can't develop properly because maturation happens in the context of attachment. Kids grow in the greenhouse of relationship. The peer-oriented middle schooler, disconnected from you. The friend-obsessed grade schooler, disconnected from you. What they need, more of you, more one-on-one time, more, I'm interested in your world, more warmth, not restriction, not control, connection. And the third reason that kids get stuck in immaturity, third reason that development gets hijacked, is this stuck development. Sometimes kids just haven't reached the developmental stage where they can do what we're asking. You can't expect a 5-year-old to use their words when they're flooded with emotion. Their brain can't do it yet. You can't expect a 7-year-old to see your perspective. They're egocentric by design, guys. It's just the way they are built. And you can't expect a 12-year-old to resist peer pressure if they haven't developed a strong sense of self yet. What they need, what all of our kids need to get past these hurdles when it's a developmental stuckness, they need time. They need your patience. They need the right conditions for growth. They don't need pressure. They don't need shame. They need time. So let me give you 3 questions that will change everything. So next time your kid does something that makes you want to come down hard with consequences, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, can my child be their own person? Like, do they have their own ideas, their own preferences? Can they play independently? Or are they just a reflection of who they're with? If the answer is no, if they're stuck in dependence, in needing others to know who they are, they don't need consequences. They need more attachment to you, not less. You're their teacher, you're their guide until they can become their own person. And that unfolds with time. Question 2, can my child handle disappointment yet? When things don't go their way, can your child adapt? Can they shift? Or do they fall apart and rage and shut down? Keep trying the same thing over and over again. So if the answer is no, if they're stuck in the inability to face futility, they don't need you to add more frustration through consequences. They need to feel safe enough to be vulnerable, because adaptation requires vulnerability and vulnerable requires safety. The third question, can my child hold mixed feelings? Can they say, part of me wants to go to the party, but part of me is nervous? Can they see both sides of something? Can they see a perspective of the opposite of themselves? Can they have empathy for you and still advocate for themselves? If the answer is no, if they're stuck in black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking, they don't need consequences that prove you're right and they're wrong. They need help integrating complexity. This is just something that is going to need more time to unfold. So these 3 questions tell you where your child is stuck. And once you know where they're stuck, you know what they need to get unstuck. Okay, so I want to get really practical here because I know you're thinking, great, but what do I actually do? So let's go back to some of those scenarios. The preschooler, right, having a meltdown over a broken cracker. What you might want to do is you want to give them a timeout, right? You're like, oh, you just need to calm down, and you want to send them to their room. But what you're going to do instead is you're going to get down on their level. If they're the kind of kid that in that moment would be appropriate to scoop them up, if they would like that. If not, just get down their level. And you could say, something's not working here. This isn't working for you. I get it. You wanted that whole cracker. Did not like that it broke. That is so hard. You're not going to fix it. Don't try to teach anything. Just be with them right now as they cry about the broken cracker. They wanted a whole cracker. Okay. Well, it's broken. It's broken. And that's okay. They can feel their feelings about being upset about that. And we can be present. That's not about us. Don't take that personally. This is about their development and what you're doing in that moment by holding space for those big emotions without reacting or thinking your job is to fix it or your job is to consequence it because they're having these big emotions. You're actually helping your child learn to accept what they can't change. They need to feel that their big feelings don't break your calm, that you can hold them. That's what builds their capacity to eventually hold themselves. That's what we're doing. That's what we want to work on. So let's go back to the grade schooler who's lying. What you might want to do, right, is you might want to be like a consequence. Like you're going to lecture them about honesty. Maybe you're thinking about taking something away from them because you really want to teach like lying is so bad. And I don't want you to be a liar. But what you're going to do instead, you're going to get curious. In a soft moment, like you're not in the moment when maybe emotions are running high, like you're going to wait till you've cooled down, till they've cooled down. Maybe it's a moment like you're tucking them in at bed and that moment has passed now. Like they told an untruth, you dealt with it, you survived that moment, it's passed. Now you have a soft heart, they have a soft heart. Bedtime, you're tucking them in and you just say, hey, Sorry, I needed some water there. You say, hey, I noticed you've been telling me things that aren't quite true. And I'm just wondering, do you think that it's safe to tell me the truth, even when you think I might be disappointed? Are you thinking that I'm going to punish you or take something away, and that's why you're not telling me the truth? And maybe they can't answer because it's very vulnerable, right? You're going really directly there with that. You might just say, you might just tell them, it's okay to tell me the truth because you want them to know that you're a safe relationship. Like this relationship can withstand the truth that might be kind of hard, right? And ugly to look at, but you'll do it together. We're in this together. And nothing they could say would ever, they can't lose you. And you would want to be like, I might be frustrated, but you can never lose me. There's nothing you can tell me that will make me stop loving you. See, and there you're bridging the um the problem with saying our relationship can withstand this. Like we can get through this. That's super important. And then you follow through. When they do tell you the hard truth, you don't blow up because remember you have to prove to them that it's safe. It's safe to tell you the truth. And it's not about consequences. It's about getting to the problem so you both can be on the same side and look at the problem together and you can tackle it together, whatever it is, whatever it might be. The middle schooler who's glued to their phone, yeah, that's a hard one. And what you might want to do is you might feel like, oh, I got to take this away because they're too obsessed with their friends. But what you want to do instead is, ask yourself honestly, is your child more attached to their peers than they are to you? If yes, which typically this is a yes, and we think that that's normal and that actually is the way it should be, and it is not. It is not. So if if they are more attached to their peers, taking away the phone isn't going to fix that. It'll make you the enemy. And what they need is more of you, more sitting on the edge of the bed at night, more, tell me about your day, more, hey, let's go get ice cream, just the two of us. You have to collect them, bring them back into orbit around you. And then when they feel tethered to you, they won't need their peers so desperately. The high schooler making risky choices. You might want to threaten and control. If you do that, you're losing the Xbox, you're losing the car, you're losing the phone, whatever that is important to them. You want to take it away from them. But what you want to do instead is recognize that you can't control them anymore. You can only influence a teenager. And influence requires relationship. So instead of rules and consequences and all these edicts or whatever, try being vulnerable by saying the truth about things that you did as a teenager. So it might be like, I did some really stupid stuff at your age and I got lucky. But I also got hurt and I don't want that for you. So instead of lectures, try curiosity. Hey, so help me to understand what's appealing about this. Like, what is it that you love about this game? Or tell me more about what appeals to you about going to that party. So instead of control, You want to try trust. I trust you to make good choices. I'm here when you need to talk through the hard ones. Will they still mess up? Yeah, because they're human and they have a long way to go towards maturity, right? Maturity is unfolding, but they'll come back to you when they do, and that's what matters, right? If they feel a safe, connected relationship, then you'll be able to influence and help them and support them through anything. See how different this is? I mean, this is so different. We're not asking, how do I stop the behavior? We're asking, what does my child need to grow past this behavior? And I want to go back to the story with Sarah, um, the mom whose son was lying. So she, we've only, talked last week, so this is pretty fresh, but she has related to me that she stopped consequences, she has stopped the lectures. She started saying this past weekend, she was saying, hey, I know you're scared to tell me the truth sometimes, and I get that. I'm working on making it safer. And so she started also sharing her mistakes. They've had some good one-on-one time. And through this, they're on a little break right now from school. So she's sharing her own struggles. And you know what? She's stopping being a perfect parent and started being really human. That's what's going on here. That's what being in a relationship is about, right? Being real. And I can tell you, if Sarah continues on this track, it's only going to take a few weeks, guys. And I know that her son is going to start telling her the truth. Not because the consequence for lying got bigger, but because the safety for truth telling is getting bigger. He won't need to be punished into honesty, and he needs to feel safe enough to be vulnerable. And once that happens, the lying will stop. Not because he learned a lesson, but because he grew. He will grow because the conditions that she's creating are allowing him to unfold into maturity, and he won't need to lie. So here's what I need you to hear. Your child wants to grow up. They're wired for it. Every child is born with the potential to become a separate, adaptive, integrated human being. But that potential unfolds in the context of safety and connection, not consequences, not control, not pressure, safety, connection, time. So your only job is to create those conditions, to be the person they can't lose, to be the safe place they can bring their mess, to be the one who sees who they're becoming, not just what they're doing, who they're becoming. And when you do that, when you stop trying to build maturity and start removing what's blocking it, something amazing happens. They grow, not because you made them, but because that's what humans do when the conditions are right, like water flowing downhill, like the seed becoming a tree. So here's your homework, and it's simple. This week, just once, pause before you consequence. Your kid does the thing, the thing that makes your blood boil, and the thing you've told them 100 times not to do. And instead of asking what consequence will teach them, ask what's blocking them from growing past this. Is it fear? Is it disconnection? Is it just they're not developmentally there yet? And then respond to that, not to the behavior, to the block. I know this is hard. I know it goes against everything we've ever been taught, but I promise you, when you shift from behavioral to developmental, everything changes. Not overnight. This isn't a quick fix, but deeply, lastingly, really. You know, in the Baha'i writings, there's this beautiful idea that every human is like a mine rich in gems. The gems are already there. We don't create them. We just have to remove whatever's covering them up. That's your child. Your child is a mine full of gems. Your consequences aren't revealing those gems. They might even be burying them deeper. So stop digging with consequences. Start clearing with connection and trust. Trust that the gems are there. Thank you for being here with me today. I know this was a lot. So if you need to listen again, please do. This stuff takes time to sink in. You can find me at innerlifeparenting.com if you want to go deeper into this work. And remember, you're not raising a well-behaved child, you're cultivating a human being. And that requires something totally different than consequences. It requires you. I'll see you next time on Rooted in Relationship. Take care.